Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to give you guys yet another update on my experience with two great point-and-shoot cameras manufactured by Sony. You've got the HX30V, but you can also consider it the 20V for our purposes here in the review, as well as the RX100. Now, even though they're both part of the CyberShot family, they're of course vastly different, not only in price, but also what they represent in terms of imaging that you're able to get out of a pocket-friendly camera. Now, if you're wondering why I've got the NEX with the 18-200 LE lens and the kit over here in the left corner, it's because it's going to give you guys a little bit of context, at least from where I'm coming from, in relating to you whether or not I think the RX100 or the HX20V 30V is the right camera for you. And obviously, you is a broad term because if you're comparing these two cameras right now, it's pretty clear that the price isn't relevant, or at least you're considering you're willing to go the distance of the $650 retail as opposed to the $350 to $400 that the 20V 30V represents. Of course, again, that only separates those two models are separated by a Wi-Fi chipset. The 30V does have that for file sharing in terms of your images and video. You'll be able to sync those. Pretty limited. It is first gen. So keep that in mind. I've given you guys a side-by-side already where I've compared at least what the cameras represent in their own right. But what I can tell you right now, even though this isn't a full review for the RX100, is that there's no question this is by far the best point-and-shoot camera ever made. You know, if you're like me and you believe that a camera is only as good as where it can go with you, then you're looking at the best camera ever manufactured, especially in light of the price point and all of those things. You know, people who are alluding to the fact that it's too expensive at $650, I think that it's actually quite affordable when you compare it to similar solutions. You know, whether it's Nikon's One or Fuji's X100, those are much more expensive cameras, and even though they do have the ability obviously to have interchangeable lenses, whereas here you're getting a fixed 3.6x lens, which is Zeiss glass, definitely a really good thing, helps justify that price tag, no question about it. Your range here is, I think, roughly 28 millimeters. It might be 26 or somewhere between 26 and 28 to a little over 100 is what that 3.6x is. So pretty good. And then of course what's most important is that 1-inch sensor, and that's where this camera really stands up to those far more expensive solutions from Nikon and Fuji that I was just mentioning. So those are really important things to know when you look at something like the RX100. $650 seems expensive at first glance, but when you take a look at what the competition has to offer and the fact that this camera is built so well and just does, you know, everything that you could possibly want out of a pocket camera and almost gives you results similar to what an NEX, I won't say the NEX7 obviously, but something like the bottom of the line NEX lineup, it's not there, but it's relatively close. That's what makes the RX100 just stunning. And of course, that f1.8 aperture allows you to have basically the best low light photography tool out of your pocket that you could ever imagine. Build quality, as I mentioned in my last video, is superb. Big gripe, at least that I've noticed and have also seen people concur with across you know, media outlets, user feedback in general points to that even though everyone likes the metal build, they're kind of missing somewhere to grip. And I do understand that. There's no question that the aesthetic came first on this, going for that Leica look, which Sony definitely pulled off. The build quality is amazing. I do find that I could see where people with larger hands are going to have problems over a long period of time. But you got to remember, this is a compact point-and-shoot camera, so when I hear those type of complaints, I'm kind of confused by what the user is looking to get, you know, because if you're looking for something that is a compact point and shoot that's going to fit in your pocket, then I don't know why you'd be expecting a bulky grip. Now, obviously, I've mentioned the 1-inch sensor, the great Zeiss glass, the great low light performance. This ring, in my last video, I talked about how it can be basically programmed to control things like aperture, general focusing, zooming, all sorts of different functions, very similar to what Canon's S100 does, but this camera's, you know, completely out of the class of what the S100 offers, obviously. Not comparable whatsoever in my opinion. But, you know, I do like it. There's no question that if you wanted to make a point-and-shoot cyber shot more professional, more control-friendly for the enthusiast rather than the person who's always going to leave the camera on auto, this is where things really begin to get interesting. And the software interface is fantastic. It really does, in real time, change with the dial. The entire feel is just precision on this camera, from build quality to performance. I have to say, really loving it. So you guys have heard me basically give you know, quite a bit of praise to this, and for good reason. There's no question that if you buy this right now, you're going to be completely blown away by the performance it offers. Again, as long as you subscribe to that, you know, a camera's only as good as where it can go in terms of your practical day-to-day use. Now, with that said, you know, obviously, we take a look at that NEX7, and even though the NEX lineup with E-mount lenses, I mean, look at how small this kit lens is, really does redefine the capabilities of what we used to have to lean on for a traditional, you know, digital SLR. And the fact that mirrorless image, you know, mirrorless rather technology and the sensors being so large have yielded great results, especially in this combination you're looking at right here. Even if you go with the kit lens, just really sharp. Obviously, if you've bought into one of these systems, if you've bought into a lower end one, and it doesn't have to be this system, let's be really clear, whether you went with Canon, Nikon, whoever it was, if you spent $600 or $700 on that interchangeable lens system, then you're probably not going to be interested in the RX100. And the reason is really simple. Your budget and what you're looking to get out of the camera experience, your needs have probably been met at that price point. You're not looking to do something semi-professional, and for that reason, Sony has put out what in my mind is, and if you've watched my reviews, the best point-and-shoot camera that is obviously affordable and really just, in terms of features, blows everyone else away. Now, the RX100 is the best pocketable point-and-shoot camera on the market right now. But in terms of feature set and, you know, price point, that's where, you know, the HX20V and 30V comes into play, because unlike the RX100, even though you are getting a sensor that is literally a quarter of the size, so when, as I mentioned in my last video, you do any kind of cropping or post-processing, you're just not going to have the image detail. You're not going to have raw functionality like you do with the RX100, something that also will make all of you interchangeable system users and traditional digital SLRs, you know, users, forget Micro Four Thirds, whatever, you know, interchangeable lens system you're using, forget about NEX, you're going to feel at home with the fact that you're really not compromising a lot of those features, despite the fact that clearly you don't have the flexibility and creativity of having interchangeable lenses. Well, for those of you, as I mentioned before, who've already maxed out your budget on your entry-level NEX, Canon or Nikon, that's where the 30V, 20V really fills all of the gaps, because you're getting a 20x piece of G glass that I have to say has been great. Autofocus extraordinarily fast. The video is just stunning. 1080p, 60p, 24p, really, you know, as good as what you'd find in some of the best consumer-grade camcorders on the market right now, especially those even manufactured by Sony. Obviously, the audio that, you know, both of these cameras, meaning the 20V, 30V, and the RX100, will capture will not be as good as a traditional camcorder. Also, they are both limited to 29-minute clips, because that is what you know, still defines them as traditional still cameras. The NEX7 also is, you know, cannot go beyond that 29-minute mark, something that still separates camcorders from traditional point-and-shoots and, you know, SLRs now that they've taken on video functionality. So really different experiences, but the 20V, 30V, because it's at such a low price point, that $350 to $400, and you're getting GPS, you're also getting, at least in the 30V, Wi-Fi functionality, which I have to say is really a gimmick. If you've watched my reviews, then you know it is a gimmick, and it does chew away at your battery life, no question about it. You better have a couple of batteries ready. But the idea, the concept, the fact that it is automatically organizing your photos for you, dumping them onto your computer, and, you know, you're confident that your photos have been backed up. And for a lot of you out there, from an organizational standpoint, I know it's a nice luxury to have. I know I enjoy it. Obviously, those features, the GPS, the Wi-Fi, all of those bells and whistles, the gimmicks, are vacant from the RX because that's not, the market they're after. But the 20x focal range, especially when it comes to video on this camera, really amazing. Now, in terms of imaging, it is still a great photographic tool. And if you've watched my reviews, then you know already how much I like the 20V and 30V. Reviewed both of them, both phenomenal pocket point-and-shoot cameras, not just because of that fantastic 20x lens, but the imaging, the actual sensor itself, despite being so small, is really good. Obviously, if you're going to blow up the images, try to do gigantic prints, try to crop in, really get into detail, you're going to see a lot of that watercolor smearing effect, as I've mentioned in reviews. But that's where the RX100 shines. You're going to give up, I would say, about 50 to 75% of that watercolor, smudging, and that's where it really starts to approach the performance of an NEX or like system. Not just interchangeable lens, but the semi-professional level. So that's why I think, obviously, for the enthusiasts out there, you're going to be really, really pleased. Despite the high price point, that's going to be the least of your worries, because you're just going to be blown away by the fact that you're not spending over $1,000. Because right now, like I said, comparable products from all of the manufacturers out there other than Sony are well over $1,000. But back to those of you who don't want to spend the money. Will you be disappointed with this camera? Will you be wishing that you had the RX100? My answer is absolutely not, because that's what you have your $600 to $700, maybe even $800 interchangeable lens system for to begin with. And odds are you probably don't want to invest more in that system, and that's why you've picked up a camera with such a great focal range. Now, if you do want to invest more in that system, obviously go right ahead, because you didn't break the bank in the process of picking up your HX20V or 30V, and that's really the beauty of what this model specifically represents. Forget about the Wi-Fi feature, just, again, the image stabilization on both of these cameras, since, by the way, both do have active steady shot as well. So two forms of image stabilization, something Sony is very well known for now, and they are, in my opinion, the best in the business when it comes to image stabilization. So if you're going to do a lot of handheld, that's why these are both obviously pocket cameras for traveling, then you're going to do really well with either one. Again, less expensive here, better focal range, image quality just isn't going to be anywhere near the RX100. So, as I said in my first side-by-side, you really shouldn't be comparing these cameras. If you are, then the only thing that could really be luring you to this, meaning the 20V or 30V, is that 20x, that giant lens, because obviously being able to get that in your pocket is just, it's unheard of, never happened before. But in that same vein, the RX100 also delivers something unheard of, because it's giving you performance that usually costs over $1,000 in your pocket. So that also is a groundbreaker. So really different cameras, but this just is basically, in my mind, a glimmer of what maybe Sony has in store for us in the future, because they're just hitting home runs left and right here, in my opinion. When you look at what both of these represent for the point-and-shoot market, and completely different consumers, or maybe the same. I could see some people out there carrying both of these. I know that may sound absurd, but because of, the focal range, the limitations of the RX, and then just the fact that in terms of using maybe the 20V or 30V as a video camera, despite its lack of an audio input, they're both really compelling offerings. So obviously, if you're invested in a NEX or other interchangeable lens system, and you've got thousands of dollars vested there, you're probably going to want that best-in-class image quality in your pocket, like myself. However, as I mentioned before, not to be too redundant, but I want to be as clear as possible, if you've, already shot the load at $600-700 and you've got your digital SLR, the 30V or 20V, you're going to be really, really happy with this camera, because it's going to make you, again, a camera's only as good as where it could go. And just to go over profiles, you can see RX100 a little bit slimmer, but the lens is a lot smaller, so keep that in mind. But very similar in size. Build quality, not similar at all. The RX100 absolutely better built product. Both are made in Japan, both very similar in terms of the design cues, but I can tell you right now the imaging and video quality not comparable at all. And that's in no way a knock against the 20V and the 30V, because as far as their class and price point, they dominate just about everybody else. But when you're going to look at this $650 price point, there's no one else on the market, and this camera is just a beast. So I'm going to continue to update you guys. Next review is going to be the digitally digested segment. I think by then I can give you full impressions, you know, battery life, really go through all of the imaging capabilities of this tiny giant, and you know, really tell you guys what it's capable of, and just take you through all of the paces, because right now I have been using it and I really like what I see, but I'm just not there yet. And I do think that if I get to spend some more time with the RX100, I'll really be able to tell you guys if it can, you know, oust low-end NEX models, which I think is another question a lot of you out there are really interested in. Anyway, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.